Hey friends, this is Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous, where we analyze pop culture through the lens of race or gender, and sometimes both. I'm your host, Julia Washington, and on today's show, Natalie Katona and I discuss Britney Spears' memoir, The Woman in Me. The Woman in Me released on October 24th, 2023. It is estimated that since its release, it has sold over 2 million copies thus far, making it the best-selling memoir of all time. And that is only as of the middle of November 2023. So who knows what we're looking at in a year. Okay, here we go to the show. You've heard me mention that I am now a contributor to Jennifer Magazine, so I want to tell you a little bit about the publication. Jennifer Magazine supports a strong community of women and non-binary people who are challenging the status quo of ageism, choosing conscious consumption over status seeking, supporting brands that align with their values of inclusion, stepping into the empowerment found in self-expression, and talking about it. If you're tired of reading publications that seem to miss the mark when it comes to coverage of women, aging, and the gender binary, publications that are rooted in internalized racism and misogyny, then Jennifer Magazine is the publication for you. The publisher of Jennifer Magazine was once told that there's concern that Jennifer Magazine misses the mark, that it's not something people are asking for. And you know what? It's hard to ask for something when you don't know that something has been missing from your life. You can read Jennifer Magazine at jennifermag.com. There you can purchase monthly issues or even join their annual subscription and receive exclusive discounts. Do you get really excited that your favorite book was adapted for screen, only to watch it and feel completely let down? Are you a person who refuses to watch the screen adaptation because you know the movie gods got it wrong? I'm Julia Washington, host of Jelly Pop's Book Club, where we read book-to-screen adaptations and compare them to their screen counterparts. We've covered books like Normal People by Sally Rooney, Water for Elephants, and Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. We even host a live monthly book club where we have read books like The Other Black Girl, The Joy Luck Club, and The Sun is Also a Star. Sometimes we even discuss books we wish would be adapted, offer suggestions on what needs to stay, and who should be cast. So if you're someone who thinks, I can't believe they did this to this book, or screams at a screen about the changes that make no sense at all, then this might be the show for you. You can find Jelly Pop's Book Club on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or visit our website, popculturemakesmejealous.com. The Woman in Me by Britney Spears is her very first ever memoir. It's the first time Britney is ever telling her story in her own words. It released October 24th, 2023, literally almost to the day 25 years after her first hit single. It is the best-selling memoir of all time. Let that sink in. Of all time. So I've told you this before. I feel sorry for anybody who released a memoir in October because we all knew Britney was coming. Why would you try?
Yeah, looking at you, Jada Pinkett Smith. Just like always looking at you, Jada Pinkett Smith, with your like inappropriate timing and texting me about your marriage. I didn't ask you, Jada. I didn't ask how Will was. Get a divorce. You have enough money to get a divorce.
Oh, man. I got derailed because you brought up Jada and I wasn't expecting that.
How dare you not be expecting me to bring up Jada after... She's the only I guess that Julia Fox woman also dared to release her memoir in October, but Jada was like, I can go up against Britney. And
Yeah.
she probably honestly thought that she could.
Well, she's a triple Virgo, so I'm sure
Yeah.
she's a lot to deal with. The audiobook is narrated by Michelle Williams. I need to specify because there was some confusion on the internet for a hot minute about which Michelle Williams. And it blew people out of the water. They weren't expecting it to be well written. They weren't expecting it to be so vulnerable. They just weren't expecting this from our girl, Britney, which I feel like is kind of the first point I want to talk about, which is how dare you not think Britney give us a quality memoir and then she deliver? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and it feels like we've come full circle, right? Like she would, because through the memoir, she lets us know that she was cognizant and aware of every game that people were playing during her career. She just didn't know also how to play the game. So it wasn't
Right.
that she wasn't aware, she just didn't know how to combat it. And then we get to 2023, October 2023, and she's like, I know that everyone thinks that this is going to be written like a Junie B. Jones book. But what if I hire a really good ghostwriter? And what if I just literally, I think also that I think some of the interviews between her and her ghostwriter were done via email. And I was like, that probably helped too, because
Right. You just
she could
rewrite what she
process,
said. Mm-hmm.
yeah, well, and you can process it slower.
Mm-hmm.
You're not unprepared for a question. It's just, it's, it's really just like, a moment for her to actually sit there. Like when I did that email interview for Canvas Rebel, I
Mm-hmm.
wrote a novel and I was like, this is not going to fly looking like an actual interview between two people because no one is actually going to write a paragraph that I said, let alone
Right.
I said a whole paragraph.
Right. Because reading something and talking about something are two different things. Like if I'm
Mm-hmm.
writing about myself. So like as we get into the novel, my very first takeaway after, because I read it in a day. I spent the entire day reading it. I rotated between audiobook and the physical book because I still have a day job. And I had to get shit done. But I was telling another cookie that we are friends with that I love how she frames this story with family being the center, the lack of it, and the desire for it. So a lot of people I know were a little shocked that certain people weren't in the book, but I think that to me that wasn't the point of the book. The point of the book was to talk about the love, desire, and loss of family.
Yeah, and when I think about people being like, how dare she give Jessica Simpson a pass for saying the one shitty thing about shaking her tatas in the early aughts, it's
Mhm.
like, what do we have to rehash that for?
Right.
Like, we understand that when we were growing up with the early aughts and the pop princesses of the time and our pop divas, that they were pinned up against one another until they had to do a Pepsi commercial together.
Right. Right. And I think that what else I saw yeah, I guess saw from this book is a woman who was like, I understand that the shitty behavior of my family and the entertainment industry has nothing to do with me and has everything to do about them. I'm still talented, I'm still good, I just didn't understand how to play the game.
Yeah. Well, and so she's 39, right?
I think
We
she's in her
eventually
40s now.
okay, so we tried to calculate her age and it's still a mystery. Not a girl, not yet a woman. But I can remember having to go through 3 to 5 years of therapy before I too could be like, hey, my generational trauma is not actually on me. And like
Mhm.
the body keeps the score and it didn't start with me and all of it. And it's also not my fault that I'm living through the late stages of capitalism and it's about to fall. And it's also not my fault that a bunch of white men on Capitol Hill don't like understand why my body deserves medical care
Mhm.
because I'm a
Mhm.
woman and my life is just supposed to be pain, I guess.
Right.
So
Well,
for
yeah. Go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry.
so for Brittany to come to that conclusion, even if it is in her late 30s, early 40s, it's because she was robbed of 13 years. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we all got to come to that conclusion in our late 20s to make our 30s the best years we're ever going to have. And now she has to do that in her 40s.
Yeah, because I literally wrote down, it reads to me like a story of a woman who understands the monstrous behavior from her family. The monstrous behavior from her family isn't about her, it's about them and what is in their core and how the system and how they understood how to use the system.
Right.
Because I think when you get the stories of her grandparents, that's crucial because she's setting up the story of her because it's essentially the same thing, just without all of the money and the fame.
Hmm. Well, and I think
So
that
it's
a lot,
showing a pattern of family behavior, family trauma. And here she is being like, I'm breaking that. I've broken free and now I'm breaking that.
right. And I think that one thing I've seen float through my phone, who knows from where, or maybe someone said it out loud, is I'm just surprised that Brittany's dad was smart enough to pull this off. Like, he doesn't seem like a smart guy. He doesn't seem like a business guy. And I think that speaks to how easy we make it to take advantage of people. It's like, why
Specifically
did
women.
specifically women, why would Brittany's dad have to be smart to take advantage of her?
Right. He
None of my
doesn't
boyfriends were smart.
Britney's memoir is so powerful because she truly is reclaiming her voice. This woman, full of talent and excitement and wonder, it is incredible how she hasn't burned it all down, but rather leads with love. She is a treasure and a joy, and I mourn the loss of those 13 years, the creativity she attempted and was denied, and all the things we could have seen come from her. Apparently, there is a part 2 to this memoir, but I sincerely hope it doesn't come out for a while, even though it's rumored to come out next year. If you only heard a snippet of this episode, that means you still haven't joined us on Patreon. Over there, you get bonus episodes, and if you join our studio audience, you get a bi-monthly virtual social happy hour where we hit the pop culture highlights of the week. You can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/Julia Washington. Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous is produced and edited by me, your host. And if you're new around here, I am a biracial writer and podcast host based in California. When I'm not facilitating the Jelly Pops Book Club or recording this podcast, painting greeting cards, or making candles, I am teetering on existential dread and trying to convince my dog to snuggle. And speaking of Jelly Pops Book Club, if you haven't taken a moment to check out our sister podcast, you should. Also, some exciting news. We are now hosting silent reading parties and calling it the Reading Salon. Our first one is November 18th at 2:30 Pacific. If you want to join us, you have to join the list for those details. In-person reading salons are coming in 2024, and I am so excited about them. Stay tuned for more details. To join, just hit the link in our show notes. Oh, I forgot to mention one more thing. If you're not ready to join our Patreon at a paid tier, I completely understand. You can join our community for free and still get access to some pretty cool content, just not with the same frequency as the paid tiers. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. Until next time.